that takes a certain kind of faith. You have to be willing to make that leap, even without absolute proof. So I would say that there is a role for faith in practicing Buddhism. Yeah, so we see a little bit of the Dharma, we study a little of the Dharma, and we say, this makes sense, okay, I'm going to go this direction. And then we see a little more and we say, okay, this still makes sense, so I'm going to keep going in this direction. But until we've achieved enlightenment or something very close to it, we're trusting that it's possible. So that's also a good question.
I don't know if I dare to clarify his question, because I thought that at that time when the Prince Siddhartha made that observation, I think it's one observation rather than faith, when he listened to the string of the musical instrument, and that led him into, because he was just finishing doing asceticism for so many years, and he think that is too strict, and that doesn't help your body at all. But if you are too loose, meaning that you are enjoying life too much, then it doesn't get you anywhere. So you have to choose the middle path. So I think it's one observation that Gautama, how do you say, he's not a prince anymore, but he's not Buddha either. So he has decided, no, he has to choose the middle path. That means you just eat enough to keep your body healthy so your mind can work. You cannot make your body too tired and your mind can work. That's what I think that observation he made at that time. So I just don't know if it helped to clarify.
Now I know what you're talking about, yeah. So in this case, it was, yes, the Buddha was making an observation based in his experience. Right. So yeah, that's not really associated with faith.
I know that desire wants us of that thing. But like if we stop wanting ultimately, what it is, we stop achieving things. Let's say.
I get this question a lot. Buddhists say desire is bad, but if we don't have desire, we can't accomplish anything. Well, there's a distinction between ignorant, selfish desire and then desire related to the Dharma, desire to benefit other beings, even if you're not a Buddhist, right? The desire to be of benefit to others, to serve others, to help others, that's good desire. So desire that leads us away from suffering should be pursued. Desire that leads us towards suffering should be abandoned. So we have to make this distinction between different kinds of desire.
I think are we time's up? Oh, we have another question.
Yeah, I think we can do
the last
one more.
question.
I have one question that, so according to the cause and effect law, that we're understanding that as a human beings, we are born in this world based on the cause that we have done in the past. And some people are born or were born in generation of Buddhism or Buddhist family. But why I see just most in Asia that most people have the Buddhist religion. But the majority of the population in the West, that they are born as human beings as well, but they are not Buddhist. But one generation after, they are follow different religions. Thank you.
So you're wondering why this change is taking place. Well, it depends on the karma of those individual beings. So now there are some Buddhists in Asia, or people whose families have traditionally been Buddhist, who have converted to Christianity or some other religion. or they're kind of Buddhist, but they kind of practice Taoism and Confucianism too, like folk religion things as well. They kind of got it all mixed together. It depends upon the karma of those individuals. I was born into a Christian family, but my parents didn't have my sisters or I baptized because they wanted us to choose for ourselves. I was just talking with someone about this earlier today. So when I was 12 years old, I found an old world religions textbook on my father's bookshelf. And of course I was 12 years old and this was a graduate student level book, so there was a lot that I didn't understand, but I pulled it off the shelf and for some reason, I immediately read the section on Buddhism. That's all I wanted to read about. I don't know why. I read the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Noble Path and my eyes got this big. And I said, that's what I want to know. There was this like buzzing in my brain, almost a physical response. I'm just sitting there reading a book and I went, that's what I want to know. So I would say clearly I had some connection with the Dharma somehow in a previous life. So it may be, part of it may be that there are people being born in America who are not traditionally Buddhist, but who were Buddhist in some other Buddhist culture in a past life. That may be what's happening now. And then there are other people, I've met people, even in modern America, who have never even heard of the Buddha. Surprisingly, this is surprising for me, because there are Buddha images and people, mention the Buddha. We've got, Zen soda and all sorts of weird things now. So it surprises me that there are still adults in America who have never even heard of the Buddha. So they look at me in my funny clothes and they say, well, what's this all about? I say, I'm a Buddhist monk. And they're like, what's that? And I say, well, have you heard of the Buddha? And they say, no. And so I tell them a little bit about the Buddha, and that may be the very first time in any lifetime that they've had any connection with the Buddha and his teaching. But maybe that's all they have the karma for, that little tiny exposure, but that plants a seed so that maybe in their next life, they'll hear about the Buddha again, and then they'll hear about the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, and maybe that's it. Then in the next life, they hear a little bit more. So there are also people being born in the world now who are just getting to that point where their minds are ready, or where they have the karma to start hearing about the Buddha's teaching. There are other people I've met who they say, oh, what's with the funny clothing? And I say, I'm a Buddhist monk. And they say, what's that? And I tell them a little bit about Buddhism, and they get angry. They start cursing at me. I'm not kidding. They start cursing at me, tell me to go to hell, get out of here. This is America. America is not a Buddhist country. That's a foreign religion, blah, blah, blah. I've actually run into people like that too. So they had the karma to hear something about the Buddha, but the quality of their mind was so negative that they forcefully rejected. And so maybe they won't meet the Buddha Dharma again for many lifetimes, unfortunately. So it just depends. It depends on the karma of those individuals. I'm sorry, that was a long answer. So I think we are out of time. I'll stick around and maybe answer a couple of questions if there are a couple of more afterwards, but officially we're out of time. So perhaps we could say that last prayer one more time.
But I think that people would like for you to stick around if you could, because there's a bit of entertainment later, and maybe you can check around, and they would love it, especially the young people. So you're welcome. So để xin phép tất cả quý vị là chúng ta tới đây là chấm dứt với tờ thắc mắc, để chúng tôi xin nhiều người lại. Anh có gì để tự phá? Dạ vâng, để chúng ta thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Unfortunately, I think I am going to go home. I'm catching a little cold and I've got a sore throat. But I will stick around for a few minutes and answer some more questions. But let's do that last prayer. When